It seems like the reports during the season, he's going into college. Well, if you decide you want to draft Bronny James, Bron James might opt out of that final year of his deal. He has a player option and could become a package deal. You said LeBron squared. So if you were handling things for the Philadelphia 76ers, does it make good business sense, of course, to take Bronny James with the idea of knowing that LeBron is already in the mix if that's what you're doing?
To be clear, we're only talking about a second-round pick, right? Nobody's talking about 16.
You're not talking about 16? I saw some people talking about 16, man. I don't know.
So, all right. I want to, before we get to that, I do want to just take everybody through, if you somehow have not seen by now, part of the reason we haven't brought up LeBron or Bronny up until this point is because I didn't have any interest in entertaining this notion until we were pretty sure he was going to be in the draft. And because of how they've changed the pre-draft process, you now have the opportunity to go through a good portion of the draft process, get feedback from scouts, from teams and whatnot, and then ultimately decide to return to school if you'd like to. So the report from Shams Charania on Monday morning that I'm going to have to distinguish that Bronny is expected to stay in the 2024 draft. Now we have some level of certainty, like, okay, he will be there. And we also have to start with the basis for this, which are the public quotes that LeBron himself has given about the idea of playing with his son. So here's just one example. Quote, "I was serious and I'm still serious about it." This is basically right around the time that Bronny declared he was going to play at USC last year. Quote, "Obviously, I've got to continue to keep my body and my mind fresh. I think my mind, most importantly. But at the end of the day, I've done what I had to do in this league, and my son is going to take his journey." End quote. Now, there's a separate one where he says, "Just because it's my aspiration doesn't mean it's his, and I'm okay with that. My job is to support my son in whatever he wants to do. One thing about being a parent is it's not always what you want. It's about listening to your kids and what they want. And that's when you get a real relationship." So those are the two important sides of it to me. LeBron, as a player and Bronny's dad, wants to play with him. Does Bronny want to play with his dad is the unanswered question here. But if we're just talking about, we're looking at it from the Sixers perspective, you're probably not going to get a guarantee like, hey, you take Bronny with pick 41, LeBron is signing the second he can on July 1st. You're not going to get those type of assurances. But I think because of what we know about LeBron's desire to play with his son, you can at least tilt the odds. Now, how much you tilt the odds is another story. Is that 1%? Is it 5%? Is it 10%? I think if it's anything 5% and above in a boost to get LeBron on your team, I think Daryl Morey will do it, and he wouldn't even think twice about it. Because
and you're talking about the 16.
No, I'm talking about the second round.
Oh, a second round pick, yeah.
The second
5%
round pick, I think he would do if there was even like a 0.1% chance. 16, I don't think they're doing one because I think they're going to trade that pick.
Yeah.
I don't know where you're at, Derek and Devon. I think there's like a 80% chance that pick gets traded. Yeah. And even that might be low. We'll see.
And it might not be necessarily traded like in a star package. It might be traded for your future pick, so you don't get the cap it this year. It might be traded for maybe an early second round pick and a future pick, so you still have more trade equity or whatnot. But yeah, I agree.
But yeah, a second round pick, like they actually have done. We were talking about this before the show. They've done a pretty good job identifying talent between second round picks and the undrafted guys. You just go through the list between Paul Reed, Bassey, Isaiah Joe, Ricky, obviously on the two-way deal last year. So it's been a decent source of talent. Keeping them has been another story, and that's something we can get into later. But that would be the only hesitation from me is like you might be able to get an actual contributor even in a weak draft. They've done a good job of scouting and preparing for those types of situations. But we're talking about LeBron James, right? Like if you can increase your odds to get LeBron James, I think it's pretty much a no-brainer.
Yeah. No, look, if Daryl was told if you draft this kid 16, I will come and sign for you, he would draft him at 16, no questions asked. Absolutely no hesitation. If it was even a 50-50 chance, he would wait. He would burn that first round pick so quickly, it's not even funny. If you look at it as a trade for a first round pick for LeBron James, yes, you do that. Is the kid worth a first round pick?
And
no,
a first round pick in a
close.
weak draft, too.
But second round pick, I agree with you. Like a couple percentage points helps. Yeah, but I think Daryl would probably entertain it for sure. And I don't know how you would necessarily get this will increase my chances by 5%. Like, how are you getting that kind of intel?
Well, I feel like Daryl will be having some conversations with Rich Paul about some other things this summer. So
nobody ever has.
But nobody tampers
before,
in the NBA,
nobody,
and I'm not accusing the Sixers of tampering. But look,
would never accuse them of
there'll
that.
be plenty of friendly conversations that are had between various parties in various parts of the NBA, and it could just slip. You never know. Somebody could accidentally tell the wrong person, who then accidentally tells another wrong person, and all of a sudden, people just know. You know.
Here's what I wonder: how many other teams would entertain that? Right? Because if you're like Charlotte, you're not doing that because he's not he's not signing with Charlotte just because. Not that he could sign with Charlotte, just because his son's on the team. Like, it has to be a good team with a chance to win. It would be like what, Orlando and Philly. Those are the only two teams that seem like they would be realistic.
Right, because so I was trying to game this out in my head or on paper before the show. I don't think anybody's using, if I had to guess, nobody's going to use a top 20 pick on Bronny. I think just base level, it's going to be a tough sell.
Can you imagine drafting him with a 16th pick and not getting LeBron?
The only threat,
it's like that meeting that he didn't
in
have.
that top 20 might be Cleveland at 20, and you do the whole, another reunion tour for LeBron, and it's, whatever. But I don't see it. So then go past that top 20. New Orleans at 21, no. Phoenix at 22, impossible. Milwaukee at 23, can't happen. New York at 24 and 25, not happening. The Wizards at 26. LeBron's not playing there. 27, the Wolves. Not going there. 28, Denver. Can't go there. 29, Utah. Not going there. 30, Boston. Can't go there. So then you're out of the first round. Then the first 10 picks of the second round. Toronto, not going there. Utah, not going there. Milwaukee, can't go there. Portland, can't go there. Here's the first interesting one of the second round, but I still think this is one that's interesting to people who are basketball nerds and probably not to LeBron. San Antonio at 35. LeBron going to play with Wemby, and that's his final act. Like that, that would be pretty cool.
I don't think it's on LeBron's radar.
I don't think it's happening. 36, Indiana, not going there. Minnesota, New York, we already talked about it. 37, 38. Memphis at 39, not happening. Portland at 40, and then you're to the Sixers. So I don't see anywhere. There might be one, maybe two teams in that 20 to 40 range who would even think about doing it, who have like a remote possibility of drafting Bronny and convincing LeBron to go there, which is why I think that you have to think about it if you're the Sixers. Certainly the opportunity is going to be there.
Yeah, but so let me play the other side of it. As you said, they certainly have to think of it. But if there's no indication at all, zero, and you're doing it just on the hope that he is going to come here in the summer, then why even waste the time? Yes, and that's because, to your point, if they've identified Isaiah Joe, Charles Bassey, Paul Reed in the second round in the past under this front office with Daryl Morey leading things, then why do it at all? If the guy is not going to translate into an NBA player, which right now we're talking about a second round player, and we know why.
And frankly, second round player is probably being generous.
Exactly, we're being generous about it.
When Kyle asked, "How would I scout him?" I wouldn't.
Yeah,
if he had any other name, you wouldn't be talking.
Well,
about
you
this.
scout all players, so you would.
Yeah,
that's just because that's what you do. So, but so to that. You're looking at it and you're saying, well, couldn't they do something else with that 41 pick because they have gotten things right? Could they get a young backup big since Bassey is already out? Paul Reed, he's hanging on by a thread right now. Could they try something out there? Yeah, you could. You probably could. And you could probably identify something else as a second round pick that's going to play in the G League, maybe get some time with the Sixers and develop that player. But the intrigue of it, yes, for Bronny James come to Philadelphia potentially with his father, looking at the situation and saying, because of what we talked about last week, where we brought up the LeBron James clip with JJ Redick talking about Tyrese Maxey, the clutch relationship that Maxey, LeBron James, and that whole Rich Paul thing that they have going on, that could be something there. And maybe that is something that you go about. So as the guys have already said, if you're Daryl Morey, sure, you look at that. Sure, you say, all right, you know what? Maybe we can do this. And maybe Daryl Morey's like, I can convince him to come here because I just took his son. There are a lot of things that maybe we don't hear that are sprinkled around and, little birds chirping in other people's ear of what LeBron
all the
might
made-up rumors about, looking for schools
right,
on the main line. And all the other.
Villanova, you can't get
him
now.
I saw him at the Wawa.
Right. Yeah. So, it's a fun discussion too, because if they did it, it's beforehand. It's before free agency starts. Sure, we'll probably hear some rumors about where LeBron might be leaning towards. They haven't hired their head coach yet. So who is the head coach? How much is he going to have a hand in that? Is it going to be JJ Redick because they have a podcast together, Derek, and they can now draw up things and let us see what it looks like? The whole thing is intriguing just because of the potential of landing his father and what that might look like. Talk about that another time, but what that might look like on this Sixers basketball team with Maxey and Embiid as they go forward.
We all silly like the mayor.